Hey lovelings, it's me, Allison Gray. Welcome back to my channel. Here we talk about metaphysics, mysticism, magic, manifestation, and today I've got a paranormal story time for you. This story is definitely on the heavier side, and I don't know why I feel compelled to share it. I don't think I've really told anybody about this, except anonymously. Like, if you've ever followed Sixpence or Sixpensey on Tumblr, she was like a huge horror channel on Tumblr. I did once submit this story to her account and she did post it. It got fairly popular in that realm, so you may have heard this story before if you were ever in that scene. But I never put my identity to this story. So anyway, you are about to hear the story from me. This is my story. And let this be a reminder to listen to your intuition. I think the hardest part about being an intuitive person in this world is how much the world gaslights you and straight up says, psychic phenomena isn't real, you're delusional, you're crazy, blah, blah, blah. As you'll see in the story I'm about to tell you, this stuff's real. I don't know how intuition works. Maybe it's you from the future somehow communicating with you from the past. Maybe it's God, maybe it's your higher self, whatever. Somehow, some way, it works. And it may have saved my life, or at the very least just kept me safe from some sort of danger. I am glad I will never find out what happened on that alternate timeline where I didn't listen to my intuition. All of that said, here's the story. When I was 17, I think, I was in the habit of using Facebook like we used to use MySpace. I would just add anybody who looked interesting. I've added plenty of people over the years and even met some of my internet friends, and it always turned out well. In fact, I once went on a 10-day road trip with an internet friend who I'd never met prior to that, and I don't recommend doing that unless you are super crazy psychic, okay? Not crazy psychic, just psychic. Just really good at reading people. All of that said, I became very confident in my ability to read people and didn't worry too much about, like, stranger danger on the internet. There was a lot of that, like, spooking people to not be friends with people on the internet in the early days of the internet. Now everyone's making friends with people on the internet. It's, like, normal in our culture. It's so funny. But basically, this story happened back in the days of, yeah, you should still be a little wary of people on the internet. So anyway, that's the context. So one day, I don't remember how, maybe I saw him comment on a public post somewhere, maybe we had mutual friends online, I don't know, but I found this profile where the name was a man you don't meet every day. And this is when Facebook was still letting you use, like, fake names, like you didn't have to use a regular human name. And the profile picture was just a cute vintage illustration, like a pencil drawing of an owl reading a book by candlelight. And it was pretty cute. So yeah, an odd profile, but not like ominous or scary. And yet, as I went to hit add friend, for the first and only time in my entire life as an intuitive, I heard a voice in my head. I've never heard voices. That's not usually how psychic information comes to me. Usually it's just like a strong feeling or sensation in my body. But this was a voice. And this voice said, be careful. You can talk to him, but don't get too close. Okay, so I was still pretty young and fairly inexperienced, even though I'd had a whole lifetime of psychic experiences. So I agreed with that voice, I guess, but also at the same time there was this part of me that's like, why be careful? Whatever, nothing's gonna happen. I don't know, I was just young and dumb, I guess. I remember that this experience was the thing that made me never question my intuition again. So prior to this experience, I think I may still have not taken it all that seriously, and may have still had a blasé attitude about, you know, my intuition. But not anymore. So I added him, and now that I added him on Facebook, I could see his profile pictures and his posts and stuff, and he seemed pretty interesting. He looked like a dude. He didn't look creepy. I didn't get, like, creepy vibes from him, but I do remember thinking even back then, he looks like a billy goat. Like, there was something very goat-like about his face. And now that I'm more clairvoyant than I used to be, I think, and this could be hindsight bias, but sometimes now when I see entities in people, it's like an overlay on their face. Like, there's their physical face, and then there's like a spiritual overlay of like a demon face, if that person is possessed, things like that. And so I wonder if when my younger self thought, oh, he looks like a goat. If I was seeing something supernatural, like vaguely, but wasn't like aware that that was what I was seeing, I might say maybe there was something a bit Baphometic about him. But anyway, I just remember thinking, he looks like a goat. And now when I see people who look like goats, I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of like wary. I don't get too close. So we chatted a bit, not all that deeply. Again, in hindsight, there was one thing he said that gives me pause, but at the time I just remember thinking it made him sound edgy and cool. We were talking about magic and the occult and stuff. I mentioned that I was really into chaos theory and chaos magic and stuff, and he said, chaos is my blood. That's the only thing I remember from our whole introductory conversation. But not, like, that still wasn't enough to go on of like, oh, this is why my intuition said be careful. You know, it's like, lots of people say edgy stuff, and that could have just been him being an edgelord. I don't know. Whatever. Point being, I never revealed too much about myself. I did honor my intuition in that regard, and the rest of our conversations and interactions on Facebook were just kind of like two people who like esoteric stuff and would occasionally share things of that nature with each other. One time I posted an original song, and he said he would love to produce some music to accompany it. That never ended up happening. But like overall, friendly, innocuous dude. And then eventually I completely deleted that Facebook account. I just got so sick of Facebook and lost touch with him. He never ended up posting on his YouTube after that, which was the only other social media profile that I still could have contacted him by. So I lost touch with him, never knew what happened to him. And then a few years later, I think, when exactly? Maybe I was 18 or 19? I know I was in college when I suddenly remembered that I'd had a second Facebook profile. I completely forgot because it was just like a decoy profile, or like, what do you call it? A burner account, where I would just do, there were certain tasks I would use that Facebook for, and it was just for like extra shit. And I was friends with him on that Facebook, so I was like, oh, I wonder how he's doing. Let me try to remember the password to that old Facebook account. And then I was able to get in. So I went to his page. And on his last post, and it had been a while since he posted, but on his most recent post, a bunch of people had commented and said things like, you murdering piece of shit. How could you do what you did? I can't believe this. And so on. And people seemed to be freaking out at him for something he did. And when I saw the word murdering, I remember thinking, is this some inside joke I'm not in on? Like, what is going on? And I Googled him, because at this point I knew his full name. And I found out that he had murdered his landlord and attempted to murder her son. And then he spent, I think, 3 days on the run until the authorities caught him, arrested him. I remember trying to keep up with the court case, but all they did was report that he used the insanity defense. Like, apparently he got some lawyer to make the case that he was schizophrenic or something. And after that, I don't know what happened. I don't know anything about his sentencing. I don't know if he's free and walking around now. I don't know, because they just stopped reporting anything about it after that. All I know is that is how I found out why my intuition said be careful. Now, you have to understand, I had nothing to go on when I first saw his profile. All the information I had was a picture that was not even him. It was like a cute owl, and a name, a man you don't meet every day, which could mean anything. Like, that could mean anything. So the fact that my intuition came in so strong and was like, be careful, you can talk to him, but don't get too close, is like disproportionate to the information I had in front of me. It's easier when you have an actual picture of someone to go on, and you can see through their eyes, like, the state of their soul, essentially. Like, usually there's a bit of a darkness in people's eyes when they have that kind of internal shit going on that would compel them to murder somebody. And yet, I had nothing to go on, and my intuition was like, listen, be careful. Of all the strangers I've added online over the years, that was the one time some grace from heaven descended upon me. And I don't know what happens on the alternate timeline where I didn't listen. And I don't know why my intuition came through for me and not for his landlord and her poor son, who now has to live with that trauma of an attempted murder. I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe they did have bad gut feelings about him, but maybe they weren't in a position to remove him from their lives, or maybe they tried to, and that's why he snapped. There's so much I don't know. And that's funny. That's kind of like how intuition works a lot of the time, right? Like, I feel like my intuition so often in my life has been vague, and maybe that's for the better. Maybe I am not supposed to know, or I don't need to know, I don't know. Anyway, my instinct looking back, like now that I've grown up some and educated myself about the occult more, and I've had more experiences with shady characters in the magic world, my instinct is that he was messing with some dark magic, probably summoning things, probably toying around with getting possessed, and I think something may have taken him over and like eclipsed his consciousness. And I mean, I don't know, I'm spiritual. I guess it's really hard for me to be convinced that humans do this stuff to other humans. I think the darkest, scariest crimes that are committed, like the most depraved, evil stuff that humans do, I almost don't think it's humans that do it. I think it is entirely demonic. So many people don't know about the spirit realm. They don't think demons are real. Or they think, oh, it's just a figment of your imagination. But I think it's way more complicated and nuanced than that. I've seen enough over the years observing people going through different kinds of things, like people struggling with addictions, people struggling with self-harm, people struggling with dark thoughts of hurting other people. I feel like I've seen enough to convince me that there is a demonic component to it. So all of that said, I hope this story is somehow beneficial to you. I hope that if you're questioning your intuition about somebody and doubting your judgment, that you listen to your intuition. God gave it to you for a reason. I pray that God protects everyone watching this, blesses you and keeps you, and I love you so much, lovelings, and thank you for watching.